Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. My name's Alice and today I'm going to be doing the Mid-Year Freakout Tag. And I've got lots of great books to mention. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Alice and I have way too many books. I'm currently trying to work my way through a giant TBR of over 200 books. Today's video is the Mid-Year Freakout Tag. I thought I would do this tag today as part of a two-parter of videos which together will make up my mid-year reading roundup. The next video is going to be my top 5 of the year so far, so stay tuned for that one. But first I have my questions. So let's get right into the tag. The question 1 of the Mid-Year Freakout Tag is the best book you've read so far this year. My best book so far this year has been Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I've chosen this book because I absolutely loved reading this. Hi Harry. What are you doing today? Hey, we're trying to talk about Charles Dickens. At least sit down. Sorry for the interruption, my cat Harry has joined us as he likes to do in these videos sometimes, and you alright? He's doing a lot of sniffing because I've got a cup of tea. So anyway, question 1 is the best book you've read so far this year, and my best favourite book of the year so far is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This is the third Dickens that I've read. I started off lots of years ago and read Bleak House, and because Bleak House is so large it took me quite some time to get through. And then last year I read David Copperfield, and I really enjoyed David Copperfield and read it a lot quicker, and that got me wanting to read more classics. I decided to pick this up in round about February and I think I finished it in March. Absolutely loved this. I love the character of Pip and his character transformation throughout this book. I love a lot of the supporting characters. I love the way Dickens gives characters funny names depending on what he wants you to think of the characters. And this is just all round a really great book about a young man growing up and his great expectations he has for himself. I also absolutely loved the ending. Best book this year so far, definitely Great Expectations. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year. For this, in terms of fiction, I've chosen The Nighthawks by Ellie Griffiths. Ellie Griffiths is an author whose series about Ruth Galloway I have been enjoying for quite some time. I love the relationship between Ruth Galloway and the main detective in the books, Nelson. This is the latest in that series and it didn't disappoint at all. I've actually listened to all of these as audiobooks and I think they work really well as audiobooks, so when recommending them I would definitely recommend listening to them. The Nighthawks was a brilliant latest book in the series. I think it might be about book 10 by now, I'm not sure. I'll put the number up on the screen. I also did read another, not sure if you would call it a sequel because it's non-fiction this year, that would probably be the best if you counted non-fiction as a sequel, and that was the sequel to this book, Agatha Christie's Secret Notebooks by John Curran. I don't have the actual book with me, but it's called Murder in the Making. It's at my mum's house. And these books by John Curran are just brilliant insights into the writing of Agatha Christie as told through what he found when he investigated all the notebooks that she'd used over her lifetime of writing. So this is absolutely fascinating, and the sequel Murder in the Making was no different. It was also very fascinating. That would be my favourite non-fiction sequel this year. Question 3 is a bit more of a tricky one for me. It's the new release you haven't read yet but want to. New releases are always trickier for me because I have to either listen to them as an audiobook or wait because because I'm not buying any books at the moment. However, I do occasionally borrow books or get books out of the library, and the new release that I would like to read, I'm not sure how new it is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I know I can borrow this one from my mum, and I've been wanting to do so for a while, ever since she got it, but I haven't as yet because I've been trying to get through my shelves. But hopefully one day soon I will have a little bit of reading space and we'll read Hamnet. Question 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And again, I'm not really anticipating new releases. I'm trying not to look out for them too much because otherwise there will be even more books I want to add to my giant TBR. But the only thing I could think of was Nikki French's new book will be out, I believe, in November. I absolutely love reading books by Nikki French. I have already read one this year and I've got a couple still on my TBR. I believe the new book is called The Unheard. Nikki French, if you don't know, is a husband and wife writing duo. They write their books together and they are the authors of the fantastic series The Frida Klein books, and I just highly recommend that everybody go out and read the Frida Klein series, which starts with the book Blue Monday. It goes through all the days of the week with book titles and ends with The Day of the Dead. It's a fantastic 8-book series. Couldn't recommend it highly enough, and I keep buying the books from this for my best friend because I'm trying to get her to read it. My mum's read them, we absolutely love them. So I believe The Unheard is a standalone book, but I'll definitely be anticipating that coming out in November. Question number 5 is your biggest disappointment of the year. I didn't really know what to go with here because probably my least favourite book I've read all year was Deadly Decisions by Kathy Reichs. I've spoken about that in another video. I was disappointed by that, but I wasn't really expecting to love it because I've already read 2 of Kathy Reichs' books and didn't enjoy them very much. So Deadly Decisions was Kathy Reichs' last chance to prove to me that I wanted to read the Temperance Brennan series. I actually unhauled the entire series after reading Deadly Decisions, so that was disappointing. But more disappointing than that, I think, was 1984. Again, I've spoken about my disappointment about this in multiple videos. 1984 by George Orwell for me was just so disappointing because I've been expecting to love it for years. I didn't love it at all. Found it quite boring. 1984 is probably my biggest disappointment. Question 6 is biggest surprise of the year. I found it really hard to choose between 3 for this question. I had 2 really good surprises during May when I read for the 1900 to 1950 readathon. The first one was a Mary Westmacott book. This is Agatha Christie's pseudonym, and it was my first Mary Westmacott. This one's called The Rose and the Yew Tree, and it was a big surprise because I don't normally read books that are just straightforward fiction or possibly a little bit romance, but I absolutely loved this book and I can't really explain why. I was surprised to find that Agatha Christie's style comes through a little bit even in a book she was writing under a different name in a completely different genre, and I would definitely be looking out for the other books that she wrote as Mary Westmacott. The second book that I was pleasantly surprised by in the 1900 to 1950 readathon was Anne of Green Gables. This has been one of my absolute favourite books of the year, and before I read it I just wasn't expecting to like this at all. I thought it would be annoying. I thought I don't know. I just had a lot of prejudice coming into it that I wasn't going to really like this, but I absolutely loved it. It's such a feel-good book. I would definitely read this again, and it was a great surprise. My third favourite surprise of the year, biggest surprise of the year, was Persuasion by Jane Austen. I'd got this out of the library back in 2020 and was stuck with it for a year but didn't read it. I read it this year and I absolutely loved it. It's made me want to read a lot more Jane Austen. I think that the way Jane Austen writes the main character, Anne Elliot, is just brilliant, and I loved it. So that was a great surprise too. Question 7 is favourite new author, debut or new to you? I'm going to have to go with a new to me author because I haven't read anybody's debut this year, and that author that I've chosen is P.G. Wodehouse. P.G. Wodehouse has just been absolutely brilliant. I'd never read any of his books before this year. I started listening to the Jeeves collection on audiobook for the 1900 to 1950 readathon, and I absolutely love it so far. I've listened to The Inimitable Jeeves and Carry On Jeeves, and I'm currently listening to Right Ho Jeeves, and I just think that P.G. Wodehouse writes in such a humorous way. He's written a great main character, loving his work, and will continue to listen to the rest of the collection. Question 8 is newest fictional crush, didn't have one. Question 9 is newest favourite character, and this links back to question 7 because I'm going to choose Bertie Wooster. Not Jeeves himself, although I do admire Jeeves's plots and the way he works things out for Bertie, but Bertie Wooster is just so funny and so silly. He's not the most intelligent man in the world. I just love the way P.G. Wodehouse has written him. His voice in the books is so well done by Stephen Fry, and he's just really making me laugh. My other new favourite character is a dog, and his name is Lineker, named after Gary Lineker, and he's the main character in The Last Dog on Earth. I absolutely loved Lineker, and this was a great book. I always like a main character who's an animal. This was brilliant. Really, really good book. Really great main character. Which leads me on nicely to question 10, book that made you cry. This book didn't just make me cry, it made me sob. I wept, I wailed, I had to stop reading the book. My husband didn't know what on earth was wrong with me. This had a part in it that was just so sad, I couldn't bear it. No spoilers, but The Last Dog on Earth made me cry the most this year. I do cry a lot at books. I also cried listening to the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. That made me very, very tearful. I've also cried this year at Anne of Green Gables and The Little Princess. Both of those made me cry with really sad events in them. And I also shed a tear during Great Expectations. There is a really sad bit in that. I cried a couple of times. And so books can quite easily make me cry, but I think those have been the main culprits this year. Question 11 is a book that made you happy. I would have to say that it's got to be Anne of Green Gables again. This book just made me super cheerful for the majority of it, apart from the bit where I was crying. It's a really fun book. It made me very happy. So did A Little Princess in a similar way. It's a lovely children's book, and I found the ending very uplifting and happy. I also really appreciated the happy endings in Persuasion and Great Expectations. If not completely happy, they both made me very happy in the way that they ended. Question 12 is quite a different question. Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received? As you know, I've not been really buying books this year. Before I started the YouTube channel in April, I had bought a couple of books, but not many. In fact, I may have only bought one. I have received a couple. The most beautiful book I've received so far this year is definitely Notebook by Tom Cox. I received this year, although I actually bought it last year because I supported it on Unbound. It is just gorgeous artwork. I've got a hedgehog on the side here, some books, some records, and a bird at the top there. Lovely gold writing. Can't wait to read this one. This is a collection of writings by Tom Cox from his notebooks, and I'm really looking forward to reading it, and it's very beautiful. So the final question, question 13, is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Lots. If you've seen my recent video about my entire TBR, you'll know that at that time I had 218 books still to read on my physical TBR. So there are a lot of books that I need to read by the end of this year. The main ones that I would really like to get myself to read, and hopefully when I look back on this at the end of the year I will have done it. As you know, I'm reading Don Quixote for Ancients-a-thon. I definitely won't get it finished this month, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I do definitely want this to be finished within the next few months. And I'm going to put some others up here that I definitely want to get through by the end of the year. The first few are some that I have started before and never finished, and I would like to pick them back up again and get them read. And those are The Day of the Triffids, Memory by Margaret Mahy, Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, The Last Precinct by Patricia Cornwall, and Moondust, which, as you know, was in my TBR for June. And I've also chosen 3 others that I definitely want to read by the end of the year. I would like to read Crime and Punishment. I would like to read Nothing Like the Sun by Anthony Burgess, because although A Clockwork Orange is my favourite book, I've never read anything else by Anthony Burgess, so I really want to get that read. And I also want to read the only self-help book on my list, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. This has been a bit of a mantra for me for years. That is definitely a book that I think would be helpful to me at this point in time, and I would therefore like to read it this year. That's all for today. Thanks for watching my mid-year freakout tag, where I didn't really freak out very much. I actually feel quite happy with my reading so far this year, so that's good. Please do come back for part 2, which is going to be my top 5 books of the year so far, and I'll also give you a bit of a progress report on how much I've read so far this year. As always, please do subscribe if you haven't already, and please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. I do appreciate all of your support. I hope you'll join me again soon for another video all about books on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.